One of the questions that has been asked everywhere we go is, how can Indonesian students afford to study in the United States? Many of them have the perception that education in the United States is very expensive. I would like to talk briefly about 3 ways that Indonesian students can find support for their studies in the United States. First of all, there are sources of funding within Indonesia. Secondly, there are sources of funding outside of Indonesia. And finally, there are sources of funding within the American universities. First of all, the sources within Indonesia would be programs like the Fulbright program, the Ford Foundation program, the Humphrey program. These are supported by American institutions, and they provide scholarships for Indonesians to study overseas. There is an excellent U.S. Agency for International Development program that will support Indonesians for master's degrees in the United States. And finally, there is a whole range of private enterprises within Indonesia, such as banks and corporations, that support their own employees to study overseas, and they will then go back and work for those organizations. Secondly, we have external organizations that provide scholarships for students, such as students from Indonesia. Organizations like the World Bank have finances available for students from countries that are members of the World Bank. The American Association of University Women, the Margaret McNamara Scholarship Program, provide scholarships for women from countries such as Indonesia who want to study in the U.S., and then they will come back and work for the benefit of women in their own countries. These scholarships are very difficult to find. And one way that I really suggest Indonesian students use is Education USA. Education USA has access to information about scholarships that are very difficult to find on your own. There are many scholarship opportunities outside of Indonesia that will support Indonesian students, but you need a big database such as the one available in Education USA to access these scholarships. And the third source of funding for Indonesian students, particularly postgraduate students, would be money from the U.S. universities themselves. At our university and other big research universities in the United States, there are thousands of international students who are fully funded by our universities. These fundings take several forms. There are direct scholarships that are given to outstanding students, particularly in the graduate field. Secondly, there are assistantships that are given to graduate students. These take 2 forms. One is a teaching assistantship, where the student will teach undergraduate courses. And the second would be research assistantships, where the student will work with a professor or several professors on a research project. If you are awarded one of these research fellowships or research assistantships or teaching assistantships, you will get free tuition at a university such as ours. You will get a monthly salary, which is plenty for a single person to live on, and you will get health insurance. So this is one excellent way for outstanding Indonesian students to find funding from the university in the United States. Again, Education USA can really help the Indonesian student to find the universities that have the programs, that have the money to support the Indonesian students in the United States. So it is not as difficult as you may think to get a scholarship to study in the United States. And Education USA can really help you identify these scholarships.
Okay.
Many students come to the U.S. to study from every country in the world. Some of them pay their own way, and others have support from their government or from some other institution. But any student is welcome as long as they have the academic credentials to get into the program that they want to study.
Good.
Most universities will ask you for proof you or your family have the money to study in the United States. And certainly if you or your family have the money, there is no problem in using it to study in a U.S. university. I should also mention that U.S. universities have a wide range of costs. Some are very inexpensive and some are quite expensive. Most of them are in a range in the middle. So you can find a university in the United States to fit your own budget. Well, I think you're raising two important questions. One is getting admission to the university, and that is an academic issue. And the second question is getting a visa to study in the U.S., which is a separate question. To get into a university in the United States, you need good English. This is not because we are trying to exclude anybody, but because it is required to do a degree, either an undergraduate degree or a postgraduate degree. A lot of reading is required. We require a lot of writing of papers and exams. And most important, a very large amount of, a large proportion of our grades in U.S. universities comes from the ability to speak and discuss in the classroom situation, perhaps more than is common here in Indonesia. So yes, we do require English proficiency. We do not require that everyone who comes to the U.S. is already highly proficient in English. We offer many ways of improving one's English in the United States. For example, if a student has the academic qualifications to join one of our programs, but his or her English might be a little lower than we would like, this is not necessarily a problem. Many of our universities offer what is called provisional admission or conditional admission. This means the student has the exact qualifications that we would like, but is missing some of the English. The student will then come to our universities, study English, speaking, reading, writing, listening, and so forth. And when they reach the right level of English, they immediately go into their academic programs and presumably speak and write and read very good English at that point. So you can learn English in Indonesia. There are many wonderful ways of doing that. Or you can learn or improve your English once you come to the United States. I would certainly agree with that because we have so many institutions of higher learning in the United States. There are over 4,000 institutions, and some of them are big, small, urban, rural, expensive, less expensive. The problem that we find in Indonesia is that it's hard to find which university is the right one for you. Out of these 4,000, how are you going to find the best ones for you? And this is another area where Education USA can help you, because they have the information that is not easily accessible in Indonesia to the ordinary person. Many people ask about using an agent to help them get into a university in the United States. And my advice is you don't really need to use an agent if you have an organization like Education USA. They provide you with the same quality placement opportunities, but they do not charge you anything. Our government pays for the services of Education USA, and the services are free to anybody in Indonesia. They are also very impartial. Education USA advisors are experts in their field. They know what is the best kind of university for you, whatever your field of study is. And they are able to give you impartial advice and make suggestions on 10 or 20 or whatever number of universities you're interested in, and then you can select the one that's best for you.